Adam Benfield, we're on. An associate of Mazzoni. Oh, I said Mazzoni. No.
Mazzoni. Mizzoni. Sounds like a name of a pizza. Mizzoni Dalton.
Oh my God, an associate Mazzoni Dalton, which itself that must come with its stresses.
Yeah, he's a fun character. He's a handful, but yeah, good guy.
We were just talking about. Well, I would like to come on to Bosnia at some point. We were just talking about in the patron interview.
Yeah, okay.
Come on to that at some point, and because my knowledge of Bosnia in terms of as an operational tour, what was going on at a military level is pretty poor. Oh, I never served. That was before my time. But before we come on to that, you work in the vicinity of some mental boffins and mad technology in Harwell.
Yes.
Harwell Uni? Harwell Tech?
It's not a university. It's based there is it's the Centre of Science and Technology, and based there is a large company called Appleton Rutherford Laboratories.
What are they called?
Rutherford Appleton Laboratories, RAL for short, and they have all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. If you look at it in Google Earth, you'll see there's a big hadron collider spiral thing there that fires atoms at each other.
Oh, have they got one there?
They've got one.
I didn't know that. I thought the only one was in Europe. That big tunnel thing.
They've got one there. They've got. If you have a look at on Google Earth, they've got a neon cannon. It fires neons at something. Whatever they do there. It's the science and technology there, and that spreads out to the wider community as well.
Neon cannons are what they used in the 80s to colour all the clothing, wasn't it? The neon cannon factories.
I don't know. Yeah, there's like coloured dye clothing. I don't know.
I went to Harwell once. It was about 5 years ago for work. I'd forgotten I'd even gone there until you mentioned it.
Right.
And I went. I can't remember which part, but
You wouldn't recognise it now. It's continuously developing. The place is a continuous building site, and there's new labs and units people can hire out to do experimental stuff all the time. It's just continuously developing.
What's the focus? What area of tech is the focus?
There's space technology there. There's Element 6, which is they do a lot of battery technology there as well. There's a lot of sort of medical science goes on there as well. The list goes on and on and on. If you look on Google Earth, you'll see all the places there. So space technology, they've built a new place there, part of RAL, which tests satellites. It's a huge building. Inside, they can vacuum it. It's like a hangar, but they can vacuum it. That way, they can put a satellite inside it and test how it would perform if it were out in space in the vacuum of space. So
why do they do that here when we don't launch any satellites from here?
Well, I think they're doing component parts as opposed to the entire satellite. They don't put the entire satellite in there. They'll put component parts in there, test them, see how they're going to perform, and that's continuously being developed. There's VMIC, which is being built there, which is a vaccination immunisation manufacturers is there, and it was being built actually last year, and it was being part of the COVID package. I think it's moved on from that now, and it's become not just part of the COVID package and vaccination production and experimentation and development, but a much wider scope of things now. So it's going to be used for all kinds of things going on. Yeah, it's quite interesting to drive around there when you work in there.
You were saying, again, on that patron-only interview, about you like to read, when you're reading, you like to read a lot of science and all that.
Yeah,
what interests you most? Are you quite well read on that kind of stuff?
I say well read. Quite often I have to read through it twice. I'm pretty sure you're the same. You read through something and you go, I haven't quite got that. Let's read that again, and you'll go through it. So you understand the interaction of where atoms hit each other. They split into the different new ones. You red, your blue, and your black, and your white, and all the way they react. Your forces, your nuclear strong, your nuclear weak, your magnetic forces, and all these kinds of things. So I like that. It interests me, and it sounds very sort of what. A soldier reading stuff like that. I just find it interesting. I do.
So the nuclear side of things then would be interest to you?
Yeah, the nuclear side of it. Yeah, I mean, I'm working in the nuclear industry now, effectively. So,
of course, yeah.
A sort of basic understanding of it is good. The Harwell site is really, the science and technology part that you're interested in is a much wider aspect. The home of nuclear energy was in Harwell. It was developed. They've got hangars there which have got all old test reactors in there of all different types. So it's not just one reactor where you put loads of plutonium in and then react with each other. With cobalt being sort of the agitator of it all. There's a whole aspect of different reactors there. And again, if you have a look on Google Earth, you'll see all those old reactors there, and it was the home of the nuclear industry.
Was the home? Have they got any reactors there now?
No, there's no active. No, it doesn't produce any power now. The site deals with the processing of nuclear material now,
which is interesting in itself, isn't it? Because one of the things I've noticed over the last couple of months, for whatever reason I've noticed it, is the intent to make nuclear energy a more acceptable option for renewable energy in the public eye.
Yeah.
From one of the things I've heard or read is that nuclear energy produces next to no nuclear waste that causes an issue.
It's a very green form of energy.
Yeah.
It's a very green form of energy, but
it's more green than than
it's
turbines and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very green. The issue with it isn't the short-term energy processing part of it. Is the long-term process of it now. And now, I'm saying I work in the nuclear industry. I'll protect it as an armed police officer, so I'll protect it. But is the post period. So once it's run its course, the material's been used and it's produced the power that it's then the long-term processing of disposal and dealing with it afterwards, which is the element of nuclear energy, which is I suppose ungreen. It's the part of energy where causes the most concern. It's the disposal of nuclear material, the processing of it afterwards, and it's not just the material itself. Anything that comes in contact with it. Where there's lots of buildings all around where we work, and they're dealing with material which has been in contact with nuclear material, so that becomes waste as well. It becomes reactive. We frequent areas where there's nuclear material in our daily work.
What protective measures do you have to take to do that?
It's all contained. It's all protected. It's in barrels. It's in proper storage. Although you can be reasonably close to it. The protection measures that they have in place. The lead walls, the water containers, all stops the radiation coming through. So although our exposure to it is frequent, it's very limited. It's very limited.
On the subject of that protection of nuclear facilities, sites, material, transit, what's perceived as the bigger threat? Terrorism or espionage? Or something else?
No, there's always a threat from many different angles, and we have to consider all those as a police officer protecting nuclear material. There is a terrorist threat, and that's the thing that we focus a lot on. We train to protect against that. We do a lot of training, in fact, as a force. I think very well trained, very narrow field of speciality, but very good at that very narrow field of speciality. But there's always the insider threat as well. So we have to have the security measures to deal with that. The control measures that we have. If you ever went to the site, you have to go through quite a considerable process of getting your pass to get in. You wouldn't, if you turned up now, you probably, you'd be there for a few hours getting in.
The old thumbs up doesn't work then.
No,
it's on the gate.
No. A high five as you go past the guy on the gate's not going to work. No.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, that's not going to work. So you'd have to, you have to go through quite a considerable, and you have to sit down and you have to go through a briefing as well. You even get a questionnaire, in fact, that you'll fill in. And if you don't pass the questionnaire, you don't.
Oh, like a test.
Yeah, you do. You get a test. You sit down, you watch a 15-minute video, and it's all about not just the security element of it, but your safety on site as well. If you see a sign, nuclear material, don't go in there. So there's a safety aspect attached to it. But if you don't pass the questionnaire, you don't go in. It's as simple as that.
How much when you say you do a lot of training, how much training are we talking? Like percentages? What?
Percentages?
Half the time is spent training? Operating?
At unit, we do daily training packages. That's probably, we'll do a daily training package once every 3 months, but then we have what we call RT packages. And RT packages is a 3-day long training package, and we do that once every 3 months. Or 4 months, depending on the rotation. But that's intense training. I quite like the training, actually. Coming from a military background, going into a policing training environment was quite alien to me, and it took me some time to adjust to. In the military, it's very kinetic, very you're going in with the intention of killing. That's the intention of the military training. With the police, it's a very different aspect. So it's much more cautious, but I think very good. I think the training is very good, and we'll do that sort of three or 4 times a year. It's a very mature sense of training as well. You are given the basics, you are given the tools, you are given the task, and you're allowed almost to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And it's a good way of training. I like it. Whereas in the military, you tended to get a clip round the ear and kicked in the right direction. With the police training, you're allowed a wider scope of achieving your goal, but then it's scrutinised much more afterwards. So any action you take, you have to be able to justify, not just by your actions, but legally as well, because of the nature of what we are. You have to, to understand the law and the situation and, the remit of what you've been given to do. It's good. I like the training. I think it's very good.
You have to do the same thing in the military, though. I'm guessing just not as an level. But do you think sometimes that can be going overboard? I'm not suggesting that the constabulary does go overboard with it, but do you think that going overboard with it can be an inhibitor? In when there is an action, in terms of inhibiting the reactions of the individual or team to the threat. Because if you remember, there have been some instances within the military on tours and circumstances over long periods of time where. So, do you remember? You probably out when it went on, but the courageous restraint thing came in.
No.
It was.
I left in 2010.
It was. I think it was the Gurkhas that went on tour at the time, but it came in as they went on tour, and there's some other units on tour, and I can't remember if it was Iraq or Afghan, so I can't remember. It was one of those two though. It's a Telegraph or Herrick. And the courageous restraint thing, as I recall, the people now are screaming at me because I'm going to recall it poorly, but along the lines of the message, along the lines to frontline troops, was along the lines of think twice about shooting back, kind of thing, which is like completely, if you get shot at, think twice about shooting back, kind of thing. Is what it was. So with the point of it being. I'm not sure what the point of it was. Well, I'm not sure what the point.
The point of it is to prevent innocents getting caught up in the gunfire, and it's also to prevent blue on blue or any other incidents like that happening. Because we get to assess, fire, assess, and it's done methodically. It's not done quickly. The habit I had to get out of is in the military. It's a case of engaging a target. If you're shooting at them and they're moving, or you don't have to hit them to stop them. You just have to stop them firing back at you as an initial burst, and that's the sort of the mindset in the military. And trying to adopt that to the police, where it's very much drawing and then pausing and then assessing the situation before firing. Whereas in the military, you tend to get in rounds down quickly, aren't you? Get some rounds down. But in the police, it's much more methodical, and you have to make that assessment before engaging a target. And I found that quite difficult to get used to. I was trying to get rounds off quickly on the range, and they were saying, no, slow down. So being more methodical about it.
I think that RTR piece, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that initial reaction isn't to say there isn't no assessment beforehand.
No, there is an assessment, yes, but it's
different.
And
the situation, and also the ability evolves over time.
Yes, it does.
So certainly in the highly kinetic ops and tours that went on through the noughties, people just became more experienced at doing it.
Yes.
And they wouldn't necessarily return fire if, for example, you couldn't identify the target, the target in an environment where there were civvies or there may be civvies, for example. People got good at it. Well, decent people got good at it.
Yeah.
Morons didn't care. Not that I ever saw that. In case insinuation was there, I did not mean that.
Well, it's identifying your target, isn't it? It's all down to identifying your target quickly and initially, and then engaging. Yeah, so your RTR.
And it's the context.
Yeah,
and it's like
dynamic assessment of the situation, and as it evolves.
When you go to an advance to contact, for example, well, it's pretty much guaranteed that
Yeah.
anything is going to be shooting at you.
Well, yeah. Well, it depends. If you're going out looking for a fight, then yeah, expect to get into a fight. But if you're in a situation where you're not expecting it, then obviously you've got to make that assessment more clinically. But yeah, the training with the police was, I think it's very good. It's very mature, and it's very sort of do what you need to do, but then have to justify your actions. Now, this might be something, as simple as, a fight between two individuals. Why you carried out the actions you carried out. Do you stop and assess the situation, see if they've got knives? If they've got knives, then obviously you act. And being armed policemen, there are limitations on what we can do. Us going to a sort of a brawl is not an environment where you want to be taking weapons. So these kind of things we don't get involved in. We shouldn't get involved in, because you're introducing weapons into an aggressive situation. It shouldn't be there. But equally, if there's a knife in the fight, then yeah, that justifies the use of weapons and progressing that on that force. And the training is very good at sort of getting you sort of focused in on those elements of what you do. It's very good at bringing people, because the CNC recruits from civilians directly into armed policing, and it's very good actually at getting people from not using weapons before and not being familiar in a sort of weapon environment to being able to use weapons safely in a civilian environment. It's very good at that. It is very good at that. And one example is one of the people that I trained with. She was a dentist before coming into the CNC.
Why did she choose to change that?
She left dentistry. I think she moved on from dentistry. She wasn't getting on with it. So for whatever reasons, she decided to go into armed police. And she was also living up at Sellafield. She lived in that area, was looking for work, went to the CNC. So, and she was a dentist before. So she then went from being a dentist to carrying a weapon in a civilian environment over the period of training. The training is 4 months long, and they managed to get her to do that. Very good at that. For people with experience with weapons, like myself or other military, and there's quite a lot of ex-military within the force, we get quite frustrated because we want to do weapon training on, every day, and, we want to do more and more and more. And there just isn't the scope for doing that in the CNC. So for people more developed, it can be a little bit frustrating. But for people from, an unexperienced background into it, it's very good at doing that, I think.
Yeah, the friend who shall not be named, who's in the CNC, he mentioned that kind of frustration as well. Yeah. But at the same time, he seems to be enjoying it. It sounds really interesting. I also like that you'd get those kind of people, like a dentist being in there. It's like that broad sort of scope range of people you get in those kind of organisations, something you don't really find in the military, apart from sometimes when you get reserves deployed in an op and it turns out to be like a doc or something.
I know.
He's a doctor, and then he's like a chom in 4-power or whatever, and he's sat in some sanger. It's like, what are you doing here? Or he's a lawyer. What are you doing? Oh, what did I get out of the car? Jesus.
Yeah, wanted to get out of the office.
Mental.
But you're right. You're exactly right. That wide scope of skills brings so much to it. I think, well, again, I'll use as an example. What she didn't bring with sort of military and weapon skills, she brought a huge amount in those soft skills, those communication skills, that ability to. I mean, she could bring even the most sort of agitated situation to a calm situation just by the way she spoke, just by the way she, a body posture, communication skills. Incredible. You could sort of make a situation very easy to handle with from what was quite a difficult situation when you first arrive in the scene. And I used to like working with her a lot for that reason. I think again a military mindset is you approach a problem. I'm working with paras as well. Paras tend to have the idea you approach a problem.
Careful, now.
I know. Yeah, you're going to reach over the table, sort of filling me in. But if there's a problem, it's not just paras, but the military in general. If there's a problem, hit it with a hammer. If that doesn't work, get a bigger hammer. That sort of mindset to solving a problem. Whereas she brought a different approach to solving problems, and it was brilliant. I think it's something that sort of soft skills, I would say, are really underestimated. And I only ever realised how important they were when, you're working with interpreters, like in Bosnia. You realise that those communication skills, those soft skills in dealing with a situation are so important. But you don't really get to experience it yourself because you're doing it through an interpreter. And same as when I was working in Kabul. We had interpreters there, and they were brilliant. And I would, they probably saved our lives in some situations just by their understanding of their own culture, of course, but their soft skills, their communication skills, their ability to speak to people, their ability to turn an agitated situation into a calm one through soft skills. And it's something, I enjoy a lot actually learning soft skills. And I learnt this firsthand in the maritime and your soft skills, because you're working with a lot of cultures in the maritime industry. Whatever the crew might be an Indian crew or Filipino crew, maybe Eastern European or Russian crew, or even mixed in many cases. So your ability to understand cultures and just opening comments. So, for example, if I was speaking to, say I got on board and there was an Indian captain, it's a soft handshake, and then you put your hand on your chest when you. Again, because that's a humbling gesture. So although you're opening the conversation, you put your hand on your chest as a humbling gesture, and it sets the tone. So he understands this culture, and you communicate. Like sitting opposite each other, the way we're sat opposite each other now. If you're together with a captain, it's quite confrontational. A European captain would see that as a confrontation because we're sat opposite each other. But if you sit as we do now, slightly 30 degrees off, there's nothing in your field of. So you feel more comfortable, you relax a little bit more, and equally, if I wanted to show you something, I can show you without having to turn it around. So just soft skills like these, and I think they're so important.
Indians are mad, aren't they?
Indians are
I don't think
mad.
I've worked with as many cultures as you have, but two, like I work with a lot was Indians and Koreans, Indians,
Okay.
Koreans, and
What was this doing? Just
CP.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right, yeah,
Indians, Koreans, and Chinese.
okay. Yeah.
Right. The most horrible were the Chinese. Like, oh my god, oh my god, I would not want to work for a Chinese company. Like we were security. We were working for a company contracted to that
Security
the
details,
Chinese
yeah.
company. It was on oil rigs.
okay.
On land, oil rigs in Iraq.
Okay,
Chinese,
yeah.
the Chinese, they were slave workers. They had no issues. The Koreans as well, interesting, South Koreans as well. I won't name. I will.
Yeah,
so the Koreans are Samsung Engineering,
Okay,
which they were slave drivers, like absolute slave drivers. They didn't care for. When you think about Korea, you think, they come from a culture who knows about oppression and blah, blah, blah. They're next door to North Korea. No, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. They were managing a contract. I say the Koreans.
Yeah.
And it was around about 5,000 people, right? So you had a security force, which was us, CP firm doing it, mostly local nationals, and you had expats running the show, and then you had Samsung Engineering. They're employed a workforce. I think it was 5,000. It was in the region of that. Huge. Half of those were Iraqi local nationals.
Okay.
Half of them were Indian local nationals flown in. Samsung dictated when the Indians would get holidays or not. Samsung dictated if they could go home or not, because they would authorise the wagons to take the guys to the airport.
Yeah.
The water ration in the height of summer, all year round, including the height of summer, for the workers who were out there for 12 hours a day in the sun, building
on the decks,
oil, basically refinery. I think it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was huge. It's shit everywhere. Big oil installation. The third biggest oil and gas construction project in the world, mate. At the time, or third or fifth.
This is in
Iraq.
Crikey.
Al-Qurna. And their water ration was 2 bottles of water a day. That's a 500 milliliter bottle.
One of those.
Like that, yeah. Like
Two
what you
of
got in your
those.
hand there. Little ones. They were allowed 2 of those a day. Unfucking real. Unreal. Right? That's the Koreans. The Chinese, They were slave drivers, not as bad as the Koreans. And then the Indians, just mental. They were nice. They were nice people, but just barking mad. But like from a different planet, barking mad. Did you find them really polite? Oh, the ships is different though, isn't it?
Yeah, the ships is different.
Right?
The maritime industry is utterly brutal. It really is. It takes absolutely no prisoners whatsoever. There was occasions when I was on board vessels and the crew hadn't been paid for 2 months. So they literally downed tools, and the company was arguing whether to get them home or not. Again, different vessels. I mean, I worked on some ships. We had, I won't name the contract, but there was a contract. Oh crikey, the shipping industry. We think that the security industry is tight-lipped about things. The shipping industry is, oh crikey.
Oh really?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to contracts, they won't give an inch. Or in the slightest bit of information, if it's unlikely to undermine, a contract or a company or anything that's going to make money, then they're very tight-lipped about things. And yeah, but working on different ships, Chinese ships, conditions on board could be. I mean, they had like communal shower. I remember going for a shower one day and I thought the walls looked a bit funny colour, so I put my finger on the wall and I pulled my finger down the wall and it just left a trench in just sort of dirt and matted hair and grime down the wall. And we were all showering in this one shower. There's on certain other vessels, some of the crews they're quite comfortable with things being broken and they won't fix it. So on board there was 4 washing machines. 3 of which were broken. The other one was upstairs in the officers' mess that they could only use. So they were washing their hand washing the stuff in the sinks and the bowls.
Instead of fixing the washing machines? Instead
of fixing the washing machines or getting them changed when you get to port, they weren't doing that. There's some of the conditions. I mean, I remember going down on a particular vessel and I used to eat muesli in the morning, so I'd go for breakfast in the morning.
Say that again?
Muesli in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'd get the muesli and I'd pour it into the bowl. And I learned to leave the bowl, just give it a little shake before going, yeah, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Go and get the milk, come back, and then by which time it allows the cockroaches to crawl out of it. Because if you poured the milk straight in, obviously they're going to get in there. So you give it a shake, you see the cockroaches crawl out of the cereal, put your milk in, and away you go. You can eat it. But yeah, some of the conditions. I remember getting a meal as well, and it was a Chinese vessel. And the meal was the little bowls you get that we put sort of, I don't know, butter or something in. Used to get one of those of rice upturned on your plate. Maybe 1 or 2 kind of bits of vegetable. But then they had these 3 squids on a little plate. And I can't eat that. And
I used to have squid soup on the Chinese rig.
The little squids.
Tiny little things. Yeah.
And I said, I can't eat those. And the guy opposite, he said, I'll have that one in Chinese. And you...
Yeah, I didn't mind those. See, I enjoyed on the Chinese rig. I enjoyed the mealtime only because it was like, what have we got today? Because it was either like a taste sensation or it was just dross. It depended on which chef was in the kitchen, who was in rotation, who was out, if they were tired, whatever.
Yeah.
But the squid, I say in inverted commas, the squid soup, you go in and it would be a big pan with water, just water with these squids in it, like little tiny. But I didn't mind that. But the worst one they used to do was they used to put a pan out. So you go and get your food, put a pan out, and it would be in inverted commas soup, and all it was the water they'd cooked the rice in.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. Water, starch water. Starch. That's what it is. Starch water. Yeah.
Lethal. Yeah, fucking hell.
And some of the conditions on board, it could be terrible. I mean, 70% of the time they're actually very good.
Really?
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, the contracts we had with Amber, the contracts were good. We had like the Shell contracts and sort of your LNG tankers, the big ones that carry liquefied natural gas. They're always top class. Very good.
Why is that then?
It's just because. The companies have good contracts. They look after the vessels. A lot of companies who less scrupulous ones, I suppose, conditions aren't so good. I remember walking into the kitchen once, and it was on an Indian crew, and he was frying something, and I looked and said, what's he frying that in? And he had a metal bin lid upturned with fan, and he was frying stuff in it. Well, it was. I thought, you can't.
Bin lid as a frying pan.
A bin lid as a frying pan. Yeah, is what it was.
That's a Chinese vessel.
That was an Indian vessel.
But
But there's an antipode in that, because I went on Indian vessels. Some of the food was amazing. Some of the most amazing meals I've ever had have been Indian food on board ships. And and then you'd go on another Indian vessel, and the food would be terrible, and conditions would be terrible. I'm still in the habit now. I'll still even shave my body, trim my body hair down on my body sometimes, because on some vessels I used to get bed bugs, and there's nothing worse than being up on the bridge wings, and you scratch your itch and you're going, oh, what is it? And you look down and you go, oh God.
Oh God.
I know. I'm still in the habit of doing it now sometimes.
I've never experienced that.
Oh, it's horrendous. You wake up in the morning, sometimes there'll be little spots of blood on the bed where bed bugs will come out in the night, and you roll them on the person. And it's disgusting, isn't it? But you kind of get used to it, I suppose.
Well, you did it for 8 years, didn't you?
I did it for 8 years.
You
I did it for 8
moron.
years. I know, yeah. But it's an incredible industry, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would, and when I left Ambry, actually, I did so with quite a heavy heart. It's not something I wanted to do, really. And
what did you leave for then?
I left because I've been married 27 years. I've got a wonderful wife. She's supported me all this time, despite the fact I was away for like 10 months of the year doing the maritime, and she's been strong all that time. I think I'm the strong one. She's obviously the foundations of everything. But I had 3 daughters, 5 granddaughters, and when I was in the military, I'd spent, I think in the military I was married for 18 years of that, and 9 years of that, or maybe more, I was away. So I'd missed like so much of my own children's bringing up. I'd felt, I felt I've got 5 grandchildren now, and I need to spend more time at home. I'd love to keep doing this, but if I keep doing this, I'm going to miss out on probably the most important thing in my life, my children and grandchildren. So I moved on and joined the police, and it's worked out actually. I enjoy spending time with the grandkids now a lot. It's great. They all call me Blair Blair, because the eldest of the grandchildren, when she was first born, she couldn't say granddad. So she used to call me Blair Blair, and then that's just passed on. I was like, oh, so you'll call me Blair Blair now. But it's it's kind of it's nice. I like it.
Going back to the maritime. What about the variation in the ports? What was that like? How different was that? How varied was that?
Ports. So if you went to the ports that we all go to, were all sort of Red Sea, Africa, Asia. Ports are actually very, very well run. They're a big security element attached to them. Bearing in mind, there's different security levels. As maritime security, we're going into a port with weapons. So we have to adhere to international laws. We have to bond the weapons at 12 miles. And the way the ports are all run, very good. One of my favourite ports is probably Mombasa. I love Mombasa. I think Kenya's a fantastic country. There's a club there called Florida's.
Called what?
Florida's. If you're ever in Mombasa, go to Florida's. You'll be well looked after. And a lot of the guys used to enjoy it there. But it's one of my favourite ports, Mombasa. The Indian ports tend to be not so good. Little rougher, but very well run actually. Indian culture actually is very good at running things. No one knows how they work. No one knows the functionality of the ports in India, but they work very well. Dubai, it's Dubai. If you go ashore in
What do you think of Dubai? I'm not sure what to feel about it.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Dubai, I think it's an amazing place, but to me, it feels a little bit characterless. It's a bit clean. It's a bit characterless. And we there's a debate going on in the UK about immigration. But you think about Dubai, 80% of their population is foreign workforce, only 20% of Dubai, and it's the same in Muscat as well. 80% of their workforce there is all foreign. It's either Pakistani or Indian workforce there.
And a massive illegal immigrant problem as well.
There's a huge. And a lot of, and it's something we used to see a lot in the maritime, people trafficking going across the Red Sea, especially when the Yemen conflict sort of, really become, impacting the civil population. There was a lot of people trafficking going across the southern Red Sea, going between sort of Djibouti.
The Strait of Hormuz, is it?
The Strait of Hormuz is in up north. That's in the Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz between Iran and UAE. That's where a lot of the piracy issues come. The drone attacks recently, which we might come on to later, I guess. But the southern Red Sea is the Bab el Mandeb, and you've got Yemen down there. You've got Djibouti. You've also got Eritrea on the east coast of Africa, and then Saudi Arabia on the opposite coast. So the conflict there in Yemen caused a lot of problems with the Houthi rebels in the Bab el Mandeb. The world shipping traffic goes through the Bab el Mandeb. It all goes down the Gulf of Aden and then goes through the Bab el Mandeb. So there's a lot of tension there, and the Houthi rebels were in a situation there where they could really control global shipping. They can shut that off. And on occasions there was attacks. They'd used anti-aircraft missiles and other missiles to hit vessels coming through there. In response to that, the Saudi Arabian put a large military presence in the water there, along with sort of the Russians.
Why were they hitting the ships? For what reason?
It was the Houthi rebels were just trying to pressure the international community into either helping or sorting the situation out, whatever they were doing. But they used to fire mainly Saudi Arabian ships was their prime target because of the conflict with Saudi Arabia. So they tried to impact Saudi Arabian shipping by doing so. But it also led to a lot of sort of criminality across that part of the water as well. You get a lot of people smuggling, and we'd see it all the time. Crews would become quite nervous about seeing lots of small boats, and the security team would as well. Lots of small boats zipping across. You'd see them flying across, going one way, carrying whatever they were carrying, maybe weapons, drugs, money, going the other way, carrying people, and it was just a constant traffic. There's a group of islands down there that were used for hopping across. So there's Jazeera Islands and a few others down there that they could use, and constant small boat movement down there. As security in that part of the water, you're really looking for the threats. Now they say you should identify a threat at 5 nautical miles. That's not realistic. It's not realistic.
You can't see the detail.
No, you can't see the detail. So realistically, you're looking at identifying a threat at about 3 nautical miles, which is a realistic time frame. Now, if they're doing the skiffs were doing probably, I don't know, let's say 20 knots. So they'd be doing 1 nautical mile every 3 minutes. So that gives you 9 minutes to go through your whole drill. But sounds quite a long time. But if you've got crew on the deck, or there's people, 9 minutes isn't that long really. So you've got to get the crew in, you've got to account for everybody, you've got to lock down, you've got to secure all things, you've got to go through all your drills.
How are you identifying that distance? Because 3 miles is still a long way.
3 miles is a long way. You're looking at their behaviour. So, because there's a large fishing communities there, there'll be lots of small fishing boats. And the pirates, in fact, it gets more complicated than that really, because the pirates will sit amongst those fishing fleets. And in actual fact, the pirates are fishermen. There might be fishermen in the morning, and fishermen are scared of pirates as well, so they do carry weapons on board. So it can be quite... Fishermen are scared of pirates, they'll carry weapons to protect themselves, but then they themselves might become pirates later on. If they're not making money from fishing, then, they'll go to smuggling. And if they're not making money from smuggling, then they'll turn to piracy. So you're trying to identify them at 3 nauticals, and you have to go through your whole drill. So it doesn't sound long, but you can only actually engage any true threat at around about 8. If you've got a sniper off, was at about 800 meters. So you've got all that time of doing what feels like not a lot. You're busy, the crew are busy, and things are going on. But as a security element, you can't really put your weapons into play until the last 800 meters, and that's only warning shots. You can only really start to fire accurate shots at 400-500 meters.
Well, on a ship, even less, arguably. Must be mental with the way the boat moves and the way the target's moving.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, well, the boat's moving left and right, up and down. You're moving left and right, up and down. You're also transiting So you're also moving along. You've also got the closing effect because you're firing down. Well, you'll know this. You're not firing flat, so your fall of shot goes down because it's not just falling at the speed of gravity, but at the speed velocity of the bullet as well going down because you're firing from 30 metres up out of the water.
You land high though. If you shoot an angle.
Yeah, you land high, yeah. But it affects your fall of shot, and that's another consideration you have to make if you're moving around. So it's a very short period right at the end of quite high stress. Very rarely, if I only had to ever do it once, because again you're identifying that threat early, you're reacting early, you're deterring the threat early, and then they know at which point they've been cottoned onto, and they'll turn away if you go for all your drills properly.
Oh, right.
I think that's really the southern Red Sea. The threat in the Somali Basin, sort of on the east coast. Somalia isn't Somali. It's two lands really. Northern coast is Somaliland, and it's all Somalia, but it's very tribal. And the northern coast of Somalia into the Gulf of Aden, it has a government. It's reasonably stable as far as Somalia goes. Somalia, or Somaliland, the northern bit, Somalia, the sort of the Indian Ocean side of it. Piracy is motivated not just by criminality but by desperation, and that difference, in my experience, is profound. Someone who's doing it for criminality has a line to draw. You know, at what point does this stop being profitable and start being dangerous? If you're doing it for criminality, right, I'm not going to profit out of this and I'm putting myself into too much danger. There's a line there. When it's caused by desperation, that line doesn't exist. They're desperate.
Go for more risk.
Yeah, they'll go much higher risk because, it doesn't matter how much risk I'm putting myself in. I'm desperate here. So that scale tips in the balance, and they become much more brash, much more, foolhardy, and they will really go for it. And especially in that part of the sea, you've got the island of Socotra, which is on the out corner of Africa. Now that used to be quite the gap between the Socotra and Somalia. It used to be quite transit. A lot of vessels used to go down south on there. No-go zone, absolute no-go zone. Yeah, well, probably now I've been out of the game for a couple of years now, but then absolute no-go zone. A lot of smaller vessels or fishing vessels go through there, and it was a very regular occurrence where vessels would be approached, attacked, or even taken in that area, going through that gap. So ships use the IRTC, which is the long corridor, which is International Recommended Transit Corridor, which goes down the Gulf of Aden, and then they head south from there.
When they're attacking a big ship, when the pirates are coming to attack a big ship like yours, what is their route onto the vessel? What are they trying to do? As in, to breach it, if you like. How are they trying to get on?
Well, they will try to approach. They'll do an assessment, a risk assessment on the vessel. They'll see if it's got security on board, and they'll be able to tell that by activity on the bridge and about the security wire, if it's got hoses attached. One of the things that you do when they're approaching is you turn your fire hoses on so it sprays. Have you seen Captain? No.
Captain Phillips.
Yeah, Captain Phillips. Yeah. Well, you spread the hoses everywhere, and it's a visible deterrent. So if you've done that, they've got a good idea. There's likely to be security on board, so they'll deter their attack. If you get close enough and they don't see that,
what's the point of the hoses? Sorry.
It's a visual deterrent.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to just make, if you come alongside, it difficult to see because it sprays salt water in your faces. But from a greater distance, it's a visible deterrent. So it's an indication that there's some security on board. But if they don't see that, then they'll become more brash and they'll approach. And their aim is to come alongside a midship, ladders on, climb on, and then take the ship hostage effectively. And that's their ultimate goal. There was, in the early days, a sort of going rate of, I think it was about $60 million was the going rate for the vessel, and then negotiable for hostages. If any hostages were taken and they did get onto the mainland, then they would be passed. They get on land and they get passed through. It's very sort of tribal Somalia, and they get passed through one tribe to the next, and there's payments and agreements that go on as they go through. And negotiators have a real nightmare actually trying to negotiate and sort of navigate these tribal areas, trying to get sort of people out.
Yeah, I had a guy on called Simon Marion.
Yeah.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
He's
is he a negotiator? Is he?
No. I think he was a. Oh, sorry, Simon, if you listen. I think he was a bootneck. Anyway, the point is he during his time doing private security, maritime, and like just normal sort of private security CP work, got taken hostage 3 times.
Oh, crikey.
And 2 times was on the boats, and one time it was a short thing on the ship. They took it over. Then it was a quick de-escalation, and the second time he got taken on land. He was on line for
so
I think,
he
2 or 3 weeks.
That, passed around from one tribe to the next.
Yeah, interesting to hear. He's quite like many of us are, like mega modest with it.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't feed them too badly, and they just kept them plied with alcohol.
Well,
he was smashed for 3 weeks.
He was a sellable asset. That's why.
Oh right.
Yeah, he's an asset.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he has value.
Mm.
You know, there's value to him. If he turns up battered, bruised, and in ill repair, they're going, oh, come on. They don't see him as a human. They see him as a product. It's something to sell, something of value. It's a weird mindset, isn't it? Really.
Oh, I don't know. Zuckerberg's got it nailed.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And Bezos, he's got it nailed.
Well, yeah, they have. Yeah. It's like, if everything, material or flesh and bone is the sellable asset, isn't it? I suppose. But yeah. But that's the way they see it there. They used to it's prevalent in Somalia. They chew cat. You know what cat is? Cat is it's a root, and they chew it, and it has an amphetamine effect.
Oh,
and it makes their mouth red. It makes their eyes red, and they spit red. And you see it a lot. So I used to see it a lot in Eritrea, with all the crane operators operating, because they work long hours, and they would be sitting in the crane operating, taking cargo off the ship and putting it on shore, dumping it into trucks.
Off their tits on.
Yeah, off their tits on cut. Yeah, they'd be just chewing it. You see the mouths would be. It looks like oh crikey, they're crazy. They think it makes them bulletproof, and
Did you try it?
No, I haven't tried it. No, it looks disgusting. But yeah.
What's the plant?
The plant? I don't know what the plant. You're going to go.
I wonder if it grows in the UK. I get it on my balcony.
It's rhubarb. Yeah. It's like rhubarb. I don't know. I've never used it. It's. I think some of the Somali communities in London use it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the legalities behind it. Really. I'm not sure it's illegal. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. It might be one of those things where it's illegal to use it in that way. But
yeah.
Because there's a cactus. There is a cactus you can buy in the shop. You can go to a garden store. There's a type of cactus you can get, and I'm not joking. And if you can Google this, kids, not kids, if you slice it and eat the slices, it's either.
I take you're eating the flesh inside. You're not
the flesh inside, and it's a psychedelic. It's got a psychedelic drug in it. I can't remember what it is. Might be psilocybin or something like that. But yeah, you're not allowed to buy it for that purpose, and it's not well known. So
you can go.
If you go into a garden store, legend has it. I genuinely have not gone in. I've got a friend who did go to. He read about it. He went to the garden store to pick this thing up, and he said he went in there. And he asked the guy who ran the garden store for this cactus. And the guy gave him this look like, oh, okay. He's like, you're a young guy going in asking for a specific kind of cactus. He's not going in to prop up his plot, is he? He's gone into
He's done his research before going in,
yeah. Like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, I'll show you where that cactus is. He tried it and it had a really mild effect, really short mild effect. But I can't remember what it's called, but you can easily Google it. Psychedelic cactus. That's that story. Interesting. Isn't it?
I'll also look into that.
Yeah. The piracy side of things is fascinating. Do you know what? I hadn't thought about that side of the criminality versus survival piece, criminality versus poverty piece. Well, it's all criminality, but the motivation behind it sets it in a very different light.
It does, yeah.
Because some of those places didn't have a fact. Somalia,
I think,
for example.
Yeah, Somalia at the time, it was 2011, so there was the ongoing conflict with sort of the tribal conflict going on with the UN forces in there as well. I think there was a severe drought as well in 2011 in Somalia. That along with sort of the increase, like Al-Shabaab as an Islamic extremist group in the area, and they started to get involved with the piracy industry as it was. So yeah, it was a perfect storm, if you like, all leading to people chewing cap.
Mega. How did you end up choosing the CNC to go? Did you go straight into that after leaving maritime?
I did, yes. I was looking around. I was basically looking for a job where I had some sort of transferable skills. So my soft skills and my military skills, and some of my weapon skills, and everything I carried from my military and my maritime background, something that was transferable into life at home, something where I could be at home and closer to home, for family reasons. I looked at British Transport Police, weren't recruiting at the time. Police, there was a long waiting list to get through. And through my research, it just happened that CNC was recruiting at the time. They had courses ready to go. I was quite fortunate in the fact that I managed to get through the recruiting process quite quick. Takes people quite a long time to get through the recruiting process.
How long are we talking?
Oh, crikey, 9 months to a year. But this is people sort of winding down on their current job and then picking up the recruiting. So they've got to go through all the security vetting and the rest of it to get in. And then the training is 4 months long.
What's the intensity of the training? 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
Yeah,
4 months?
It's 5 days a week. It's done in packages. So you have your legal side of it, which is done in Oxford. A place called Culham, where they do the training there, and then you go to Aldershot, in fact, and do a lot of your training down there for the weapons side of it, and use the ranges at Bisley.
What weapons are you rocking?
We've got G36s.
Oh, nice.
Which is it's a good one. Yeah, I'm through the maritime. I've used lots of different weapons. I used to instruct on a whole host of different weapon types. I used to like the M16 variants. But AK variants. One of my favourites being the SLR you used. Yeah,
you keep pointing at me, right? When you say SLR, I'm not that old, mate.
You're not?
No.
No, but you're aware of what it is.
Yeah,
you know what it is.
Yeah.
That for me is my favourite because it's a big and it looks it's a gun. If you pull that out, people pull a gun out and you go, okay, yeah, that's the gun, and you pull that out, people go, ooh. That's a big unit, that one, and it was my favourite. It packs a punch as well. But the G36 is an unusual setup to me.
In what way?
I don't like the operation of it. It's unusual because cock and handle's on the top.
What came in?
Have you
the
used
M16s? No, but I haven't used the G30. Not that I remember any. G36 may have fired it once somewhere. I don't know. But I remember when they brought in the sharpshooter rifle into service.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And when I got an opportunity to use the M16s early on in my career,
yeah,
and they were top cocking, and I didn't like it. I think because what I didn't like on the M16s is because it was a bit flimsy.
It's very toy-like, isn't it?
Yeah, but even the cock-in mechanism, so you could easily twist that cock-in lever that you pull back. You can easily twist, which just to me shouts, there's going to be a breakage here.
Yeah.
Something's going to break on this.
It does feel very toy-like.
But then the opportunity of the right and left-handed firing gives, I don't know. So G36, okay. Right, so it's got a top
cock-in. Yeah, it's actually ambidextrous the way you can use it because we've got the folding stock. We've got the K variant, so it's a short barrel.
What else don't you like about it?
It's not balanced very well, I don't think.
Oh, okay. It's not a bullpup, is it?
No, it's not. It's not well balanced.
So to hold, where is it heavy at the front?
It's front heavy. Yeah, it's front heavy. It has a handle on the front, so you can carry it quite comfortably. But for quick control of it, it feels clumsy to me. It's quite a heavy weapon as well for what it is. You can get much more bang for your buck with other weapon systems with a longer barrel, but a shorter design, better balanced.
It's one thing I did like about the SA-80 was the balance.
Perfect balance.
You couldn't argue with the balance.
No, you can rattle off. You can even go automatically one-handed if you really wanted to with that. But yeah, I used to like that. But we have a sidearm Glock. we were dripping with weapons. Really, we have taser, we have pepper spray.
Oh, have you got everything?
Yeah, we've got everything. We've got the whole lot. So we're very well equipped. In fact, weapon-wise, for the nature of what we do. We're guarding very, very sensitive product. So yeah, it's.
How much opportunity did you get to shoot, especially with the sidearm?
Every 3 or 4 months. So we do that 3 or 4 times a year. We'll do training, and we'll spend a whole day on the ranges, and then the other training encompasses weapon use as well. So I think we do a lot of training. I think, and it's very good. We use different weapon systems for different scenarios. So obviously we're not going to use our main firearm or G36 for something which we could use a taser for. And you get different training scenarios, so you get trained in all those different weapons. I've never had to fire the taser live, but I quite like it actually. It's
Why is that? Have you tased yourself?
No, well, yeah. They used to do. They don't do it anymore. But I mean, many years back, they used to shoot each other to experience what it was like to get shot with it. But we don't anymore. We don't do that. We don't pepper spray each other anymore either.
Have you experienced the pepper spray though?
I have in Germany, yeah.
How similar is it to CS experience in terms of symptoms?
I thought pepper spray was worse.
Oh really?
Yeah, I thought it was worse.
In what way?
In the military, I was at a CBRN instructor, so I used to use CS gas all the time. CS spray I never had, but the pepper spray I got sprayed in the face in Germany. There was a fight outside the bar, and the police turned up, and they sprayed one of the other guys.
It's
actually
liquid, right? It's not
it's
gas.
a spray,
yeah.
And they sprayed one of the other guys, and he was stumbling around. So I went over to grab him to help him out and get him out of trouble. And he just breathed all over me. He got sprayed again, and a lot of it splashed off him into me. So, yeah, horrid. I think the German that's not pepper spray. They use mace.
What's the difference? I thought it was.
I think it's different. No, they're different chemical formulas.
Really?
Yeah.
And mace is worse.
Mace is badder.
Badder.
It's badder. Yeah, I think that's the stuff the Americans use.
Yeah. I thought it was the same thing.
Yeah, there's a difference in combats because some are flammable and some are not. So in the event that you get sprayed with sort of mace, that has a flammable element to it. So if you were then to introduce a flame or a taser to that, then it could combust. And the difference.
So mace is flammable. We think
some of these irritants are flammable. Some of them are not. So that it has an impact on what you can use. If you introduce someone smoking, obviously you don't want to set fire to them.
Depends who it is.
Yeah, always. You don't always want to set fire to them. Yeah, but it's the chemical compound's just different. That's it. That's the only difference. With
the constabulary, the CNC, is there any? Do you ever? Are you like on a? Is there not a risk? Is there ever a thing where you, in a situation, could be called up to bolster other constabularies that aren't CNC, that aren't nuclear?
We have Optempra, and Optempra is it's element in which if there was a terrorist incident, for example, say in London, then because we're armed police, then we can be called out to support armed police on the streets, to provide security to the general public, confidence in the public, and then prevent any other sort of escalation of any situations or any copycat incidents. So it's just a way of the government putting armed police officers on the streets very quickly, very effectively to support the community. And that's not temporary. And then the military, they would then be called in to backfill our job of guarding nuclear facilities. So that's just a way, and it's not because the military aren't capable. It's because they don't have the legal powers to deal with situations on the streets that the police have. The military is the military.
Give me an example of that.
The use of force powers are different. So we have the legal template to be able to use firearms and different elements of force, where the military don't have that legal element that they'd be called in. They may be called in to support us on the ground, but anything that we do. So, for example, the military don't have the legal power to stop cars, for example, or stop and search, whereas the police on land in normal situations do. So then we would stop cars, search cars, and
That's
carry out the legal
interesting,
side
isn't
of
it?
it.
People would
And
have
the
thought it'd
military
be
would look
carte
back as well.
blanche. People probably have this misconception that if the military on the ground, they can do whatever they want, have the power to do whatever they want, which isn't the case.
It gets legal and it gets political, but there's different powers that you have there. So the police feel that legal power, whereas the military don't have the same legal powers. But that's how that works, and it's very effective. And we've done some training and exercise practicing that. In fact, yeah, I was picture taken of me, and I'm all over the all over the internet now, and all over the army web pages. A picture of me doing that. I know in the military, if you give a picture of you, you get crated, didn't you? You build a crate, yeah, yeah. It's a similar thing in the police.
How long is the contracts for with them? Like, is there a minimum term of service, or what? How does it work?
You sign on, and then it's pretty much. I mean, I intend on staying until I retire. Really, no intention of moving. Once you're trained and you're in your unit, then that's it. You work continuously with them. There's no contracts. It's pretty much a police contract. It's pensionable. So a lot of people who want to get into that.
You can transfer your military pension.
You can transfer your military pension across. I decided not to because I did a full term of service. I did 23 years, so I'm now drawing my military pension, and it pays all my bills. I live pretty much debt free, really, because my pension pays all my bills. I prefer to draw my pension as opposed to paying it into a police pension. But yeah, it's good. I mean, if you wanted to get into armed policing, I think it's a very good thing to go for. Actually, I enjoy it. I think it's a great job.
To be honest, it sounds like it.
It is, yeah. I mean, there is an element of you can oversell it because there is a lot of time. You're doing a security job, and as with close protection or maritime, there is a lot of sitting around sometimes. You're inactive for great periods of time, but then other times you're doing some stuff that people pay a lot of money to do.
So give me an example of your day-to-day activities. So
well,
stagging on.
Well, no, we don't do gate guard or anything like that. We're acting as police, but we protect a facility, and it's the same for all the sites around the UK. Whether there be places as large as Sellafield or as small as Harwell, but all equally important. And you get your vehicle and you work in pairs. And
are you vehicle borne then?
Yeah, we're vehicle borne. Yeah,
okay,
so we're vehicle borne, and we patrol the local area. So we spend much of our time patrolling the local area. So probably a third of our day will be spent patrolling the local area.
In the facility and out?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll be in the facility for part of the day and then out of it for part of the day. We get a rest period as well. So we do a 12-hour shift and we get a rest period within that. I normally go to the gym in that period. Yeah, you are busy, but of course there is that element of sometimes just sitting around. It's we all get that, don't we? You go, oh God, what am I doing now? And then you're looking at your watch, looking for the next event. We police the local area around the facilities, and it's a very visual deterrent. We're in proper police cars, all marked up, all Battenberg coloured and with the weapons on board. And you're reacting with the local community. That's pretty much it.
How much liaison goes on with Joe? What do you call? What's the nickname for the local? Do you have a nickname for the normal police?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it. Yeah.
Tell me off air. Tell me off air.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of police because of CNC, we don't get involved in a lot of general day-to-day policing. We don't get involved in burglaries or So a lot of the police see us as kind of half-baked cops. We're not, of course, but we just don't get involved in that because of the nature of what we are. That's not our role. Our role is the protection of nuclear material, first and foremost. We are trying to get more involved in general day-to-day policing, but it's not something. It's our remit. It's not something we get heavily involved in. Although a lot of us would like to, we can't. We're covered in weapons, so it's not suitable all times. But we can do work with the local police. They don't see us really as proper cops, but then armed ARVs also don't see us as...
They must hate you, do they? They hate you.
Well, because they have to do.
Because you're also armed.
Yeah, we're also we're probably more heavily armed than they are, to be honest. But again, our remit is different. Our remit, so they see us as sort of and I think because people can join straight from Civvy Street into armed policing that way through the CNC. I think they see us.
Of course, because with them you can't.
They have to do a long probational period.
Yeah. You have to go into normal cops.
Yeah, you have to be copper. Then you have to do 2 years on the vehicle. So all the ARVs they've probably done. Well, yeah, I'm guessing here probably for 6 years in the police already before becoming an armed cop. And they're very good at what they do because they've got a lot of experience and a lot of policing experience behind them. So they are very good at what they do, whereas we're sort of put straight into it. But I think the advantage of what we do is there's a lot of ex-military personnel in there. So, we bring that to the party. So, we all have our little remits. I think the CNC, although it's a very narrow field of expertise, we're very good at that very narrow field of expertise. And we're looking at broadening out, sort of diversifying a little bit. And I think we will in the future. I think we will.
Oh, in what way?
Well, there's talk about going into other elements of working with the local police force. So we would de-arm, so we wouldn't be armed cops. And then as an overtime duty, you could work with the local police force. And that's something that's being arranged at the moment. There's also talk about going more into sort of the maritime part of it, sort of working on vessels.
Port protection.
Port protection, coastal patrols, things like this on vessels. So there's talk of that. Whether that comes to light or not, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's the force is trying to diversify a little bit. With the nuclear industry, of course, it's Rolls-Royce are developing small reactors, aren't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, Rolls-Royce are looking at developing small reactors. I think France has something like 110 different nuclear reactors.
But they're squared away now. Most of their power comes from nuclear power, doesn't it? Now?
Yes, but they don't go for the big, Hinkley Point, Sellafield, huge power stations supplying a huge area. They have a lot of smaller power stations all over the place, providing power to a large community, but not as big as the big ones here. So they run it differently.
That has to be the way we go. It's got to be the way we go.
Rolls-Royce are developing nuclear power stations, and then they're small. I don't know how small. I think you could fit them on a sort of tennis court kind of size, I guess. I don't know.
Are they doing this at Harwell? Are they researching at Harwell?
They'll be doing their research at Rolls-Royce, where it's in Coventry.
Is it?
Yeah, we used to be. I don't know where it is now.
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where they're working out of now, but they're developing sort of smaller power stations, and there's talk of that. You'll have to Google it. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm being careful with Google at the minute. I had a near-death experience, near Google experience on that podcast you were listening to in the car on the way up with Gaz Welsh.
I've just heard that. Yeah, you're speaking about it.
Oh, it came on.
Yeah, I just heard.
We were talking, and my phone, for the first time ever, decided to wake itself up, was listening, and talked back to me about, I can't remember what it said, but we were talking about crypto and all that. I'm not saying that he said, oh, Google's listening, and we were using some buzzwords, they didn't like it. But it was definitely some weird,
Do you think it listens to you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah, 100%. I had a Huawei before that. That's a Google, I can't remember what Google phone it is.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but I had a Huawei. Well, this one, I still got to get this Huawei. And the reason for fuck's sake, I keep hitting that camera in my head. When it hits this metal on the headphone, it buzzes through. I've moved my position. I don't normally sit here, I sit there. But I had the Huawei before the Google phone. I bought the Huawei back out of retirement because it's just brilliant. That is 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old.
Dual SIM?
Yeah, dual SIM.
Yeah.
And it pisses all over the Google phone.
Oh,
the
really?
Google phone is the worst thing I've ever had. I'm not even joking. It is just full of bugs. It can't
be worse than a Windows phone.
Oh, I never had it. No, but when you think this Google phone is brand new,
okay.
and this Huawei is just 2 or 3 years old, is still pissing all over it. Do you know what I mean?
Huawei are good.
Huawei are brilliant, but also you got China listening. But yeah, I think Google's listening all the time. Well, they are. For fuck, I say it again. They are listening all the time. Did you see? Oh man. Oh, where? Did you see? They're all doing it. Governments are doing it. Smartphone manufacturers are doing it. Network operators are doing it.
Yeah.
They're all doing it, right? Did you see? Was it yesterday? I saw on the news. let me say, I saw in the news. I saw a headline and I saw a video with captions being translated. It was about Canada, so that's as far as we went in that.
Yeah.
But Canada basically coming out. This is a Canadian senator. Do they have senators in Canada? A Canadian politician, anyway, coming out, part of the government, and saying, apologising because they had been monitoring people's smartphones for location data to track where people were going, and they said it's because of the COVID pandemic, but they were tracking people's movements illegally.
Do you think, when people sort of sign agree to contract, it'll be in there surely?
No,
but people never read the contract.
No, it's above that, isn't it?
You think?
It's government policy level. You got that side of it, the level at which the government can allow to spy on you, and then you got the other side is what the company who owns the phone, or Google in this case, or Huawei, what they are willing to do in terms of illegal activities to get the data off you. Data's where the money is.
Data is
where
king.
the money
Yes,
is.
it is definitely
Where the money is, And I have absolutely no doubt Huawei, China are milking us. Like my Huawei phone, that probably knows everything about me now.
It's more about you
but
than
they
you
ain't
do.
looking at it because who the fuck am I? It's different if I'm Boris Johnson, for example, rocking a Huawei phone. I wouldn't be doing that. But
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do you think? Do you have an Alexa at home or?
Recently I got an Amazon the Echo Dot. I got one of those, yeah, very useful. I'm very glad I got it. That doesn't kick off.
Oh, my daughter's got an Alexa at home, and I often think
the round thing like that.
Yeah, it's a little one. Yeah.
Yeah, I got Echo Dot. An Echo Dot.
Oh, okay.
They're called Echoes, yeah. Anyway.
And he's definitely listening to you all the time. Definitely.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I mean, it has to be, because when you say, Alexa, beatbox, and, the Alexa starts beatboxing, or, tell a dirty joke, and it'll tell a dirty joke.
Beatboxing.
Have you never done that?
No.
When you get home, ask your Alexa, say, Alexa, beatbox, and it will start beatboxing.
I'll do it now. Alexa, beatbox.
Is it doing it?
Just showing me a beatbox. Hang on a minute.
It must be.
Alexa, do some beatboxing. So.
You want more? You got
it. There you go.
Brilliant.
So then, that device is listening to you, obviously, because you told it to listen to you by pushing
press the button.
Yeah, so you push the button.
I
But Alexa must be listening to you all the time.
Yeah. All the time, yeah.
All the time, because you have to say Alexa, and it's listening to you. So, what information it's getting from you, your political opinions, your whatever, even your most intimate comments are being recorded all the time. Scary.
Very useful. I can't argue. It's very useful. Alexa, set a time of 10 minutes. Alexa, what's the weather? Is it going to rain today? Alexa, blah, 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 blah. Alexa, do some beatboxing.
Well, there you go.
What on earth are you doing? We got a few minutes left. Right. You're over senior because Mazzoni Dalton has he roped you into Yompathon.
He has, yes. He threw me into this.
Did you literally have no choice?
I don't know. It's squaddy mentality, isn't it? Adam, do you want to do this thing? You want to go? No, I should have said fuck off. But no, I can't. And I am so glad actually that I did.
Why is that?
That he phoned me. I think it's a mission. It's it's like any operational tour, any job you do, it feels like you're going on a big adventure with the guys. And this is what the Yompathon is. It's a big adventure with the guys, but it's raising awareness for mental health for all our frontline services. And that includes police, all the military, fire service, our ambulance service. And it's only now I've started sort of to mix in a policing environment. Now I realise we often associate PTSD and mental health with the military. And that's sort of
the mental ill health.
Yeah, that's sort of the go-to when people say PTSD. You go military, combat stress, and all the rest of it. But actually, now I've started mixing the police environment. The stories that are being told to me that our police force go through that every day, every single day. our ambulance service turn up to
As in
road
traumatic,
traffic.
you mean traumatic events every day? Yeah, consistently.
But they have to be the consummate professional throughout that incident. They can't waver one little bit, and that then stagnates and becomes more of a serious problem later on down the line. This is a story I was told. And the truth behind it, I don't know, but a story of a policeman attending a stabbing in London. A policeman arrived at the scene of the stabbing, and the victim there was being treated by the policeman. Now, while he was treating that guy who'd been stabbed, the people who had stabbed him then set upon him, and he's been punched and kicked and abused whilst trying to save the life of this young guy. Now, that police officer now is going to have to go at the end of that incident, probably accompany the victim to hospital because he's a witness. So he's going to have to deal with him. He's then going to have to go back to the station, overtime, fill in the paperwork, then go through the whole rigmarole of later court cases and everything else and all the stress that comes with that. But then expected to turn up for work the next morning, crack on as if nothing's gone on, and then probably deal with a similar situation that day. And that stress, it never dawned on me before that the stresses and strains that the police go through on a daily basis, and the fire service being the same.
An ambulance. To be honest, I honestly think the ambulance service have got it the worst out of three. I think
I'd probably agree.
And again, with you, I didn't realise until I then ended up knowing people who went and did those things: police, fire service, ambulance, and man, like the ambulance service, most of the time they go into someone's worst day. Like most of the time, when they get called out, they go into someone's worst day. They do that multiple times a day. Yeah. But it's little things as well as big things. The obvious ones are car crashes and, or all the trauma of trying to save a child's life, for example. Yeah. Can you imagine that? Yeah. Can you imagine that? Something as horrendous. And then I know a few people who are paramedics, and as you do probably. Yeah. And I remember just one story was. We'll wrap it up in a minute, but one story, it was as simple as this. He went to a person who was trying to kill herself on the underground, as a bloke, trying to kill himself, trying to throw himself onto the lines, onto the lines in the tube, the tube station, to electrocute himself, or end up in front of the tube. Yeah. My mate went there, got there. It was something in the vicinity of 40 minutes, an hour before anyone else came to assist him. But he ended up basically sat on the benches in the underground. Sat on the benches in the underground with this guy, trying to constantly talk him down. And every few minutes, this guy was trying to jump up and leap onto the tracks.
And restraining him.
Just him talking. This guy wasn't being erratic or trying to hit my mate or anything like that. But he was so intent on killing himself. And my mate was there for 40 minutes an hour. And just that in itself, there's no violence going on. Exactly. There's no violence going on. There's nothing like that. But the impact of that must be like, but like you said, he would have finished that job, then we would have been on to the next
phone call. Next one, off we go.
I've got a mate who's a London paramedic, and he was saying that, and he's been doing, well, in fact, he's just changed jobs, right? But he's been doing it for a while, a fair few years. But he was saying when he first got into it, the burnout rate, people don't generally last past 3 to 4 years on the London ambulance service because of the fucking intensity of it. And going back to your point about that copper getting attacked, they go out with stab vests on. This is paramedics with stab vests on, and they have to worry about getting acid attacked and stabbed and all this stuff when they're trying to help people, gang violence and all that. Anyway, it's horrendous. Blue light services, mate. Yes. They are like gen up unsung heroes. People massive, don't realise anything.
Yeah, frontline services, massive. And that's what the Yompathon's all about, just raising awareness, raising funding, raising support for all these people who genuinely, go through so much on a daily basis and very rarely recognised for their work, and often expected just to turn up next day, bright as a button, start all over again. It's a huge commitment, not just for them, but for their families as well, are all being taken through this, because that person now is going to go home and, into an environment with his family and have to deal with being in family life after suffering, stresses and strains like this. It's often the family that take, a lot of the burden of the stresses and strains of people when they, express their feelings. But it's going to be 3,820 miles, I think it is, that we're going to be marching. We're going around the whole of the UK to all the military bases.
Are you doing the whole thing?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay.
But I'm not doing all no, we're relaying it. There's 7 of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
But I'll be doing the whole thing.
But
going
you doing
to-
the whole... Hang on.
So I'm
Right,
doing.
you say you're relaying it, but are you doing the whole 3,000 odd?
No, we're
Right,
relaying it. The 6 of us, we do basically CFT, 8 miles, 25 kilograms each,
Oh, but you'll all go around the whole room.
twice a day.
Oh.
So I'll hand it on to the next guy, And there's 7 of us doing it, actually doing the tab, and a support team. So there's 7 of us actually doing it. And every 7th day, you'll get a day off. So there's actually 6 people marching each day, do 8 miles. And that's like 96 miles a day we'll be doing around the UK. All the military bases, and then all police stations, ambulance stations, and NHS buildings, and fire stations on the way around to raise awareness. It's starting to gather pace now. The only thing we need now is to sort of get the media coverage. But this is it's all alien to me. It's all very alien to James as well. You know, and now starting, you know, James being sort of trying me being a trustee. It's a full-time job, isn't it? Running a charity, and charity is a business. It is a business. You have to run it like a business. You know, it's a business, and it has bills to pay. It has commitments to make. It has promises to make. It has people who have vested interests in it, and you know, it's quite a heavy workload to take on. And I'd never realised before. Some elements of the charity industry, I was going to say, aren't so charitable. That's not the right thing to say, but have to pay their bills as well. So it's not a case of just managing a charity. It's a case of having to manage a business.
It's tougher than the business. It's tougher than the business.
Yeah. And what you were saying before, you're constantly asking for things for free almost.
Exactly.
And
a business has a product or a service to sell, and they get money from customers.
And in doing so, you now have a commitment to that company.
Mm-hmm. And a charity doesn't have that. Charity has to ask for money for nothing.
Yes.
Can you give me money? You're not getting any of the back for this, by the way.
Yeah.
But can you give me money so we can support these beneficiaries who aren't you? There's someone else, for example.
Yeah.
It's just the worst thing. It's like when I say the worst thing, it's the hardest job in the world.
It is difficult.
Never want to do it. Never want to do it.
But it's interesting. I'm learning as I go along. James is learning as we go on, and all the other people helping, all the support teams, we're all learning as we go along. Hopefully, when we're going around, we'll raise as much awareness and as much funding as we possibly can for these charities. It's well worth doing. It's just getting there. It's learning. It's running in custard. It is really running in custard. You know, it's difficult, and of course, holding down our own jobs as well. So we're trying to find what little time we have for ourselves. We're filling with charity work.
So just quickly before we finish off, so you're visiting all of the military bases.
Yeah, if you go onto the Yompathon.com website, there's a route card on there.
Okay, but generally, all of the military bases, NHS places,
ambulance, fire stations, police
all of them.
Well, if we're passing it.
Oh right, got it.
But the waypoints are all the military bases. If there's police stations or other things around, then of course we're raising money and awareness for them. We'd love to get their support as we go around.
What are you going to do when you stop off at them? Wait, when you say you're visiting them, so if you stop off at a cop shop, what are you going to do?
Knock on the door. Hello, how are you? We're supporting you. Get a picture.
Yeah.
Fist bumps and hugs all round.
Knock on the door. I got it.
Yeah. Hello.
They have receptions these days, mate.
Yeah, receptions. A few business cards around, and just let them know what we're about.
Oh my God.
And then hopefully we'll get the support as we go around. We are looking at people joining us as well. So when we're coming past here, feel free to join us.
Covent, okay.
I
think I did mention this to him about we'd be involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did say this to him.
Yeah, getting people
so you can
involved.
join on for legs. So I can join you for
can join on for a leg. Yeah. And you'll get some freebies. You'll get a coin, and I think
Combat Cigar.
Combat Cigar. Yes.
Combat Cigars are supporting the Yompathon. Yeah, so everyone who takes part is going to get a cigar, aren't they?
Yeah,
Combat
get a cigar, a coin. We're getting coins produced, so we get a little medal out of it as well. But again, it's all giving back to people who are supporting. If you can raise some money, join us. Feel free. I'm sure after 3,820 miles, my feet aren't going to be so. The feet are going to be all blistered and battered, but all for a greater good.
Yes. Well good luck
it.
with it, mate. And it's yompathon.com.
Yompathon.com.
Yompathon.com, and on Instagram it's at the Yompathon.
Yeah.
On Twitter it's at Yompathon.
Yeah.
Oh, you find it. Yompathon.
Yeah,
Pretty
Yompathon.
unique name.
Yeah. You won't get many hits if you typed in Yompathon. Yeah, if you type in Yompathon, you'll get very few hits. That you'll find us there.
Mega. Adam, been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Cool. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you for watching the H Hour podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast and you haven't already done so, please subscribe here, around about there. I'm hoping it's around about there where the button's going to appear. If it's not already appeared, you can also, if you want to listen to the podcast on your commute, for example, when you're driving, when it's not practical to watch the podcast, you can listen to it. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Google Podcasts, it's everywhere. It's on all of the common and not so common podcast apps. You can also, if you wish to do it, become a patron of H Hour. Becoming a patron of H Hour, you get access to all of the interviews before anyone else. So this interview with this guest was released days, if not weeks, before it was on release to the general public. And you also get access to exclusive interviews, which I do with each guest, that last about 5-10 minutes, that are based on questions that the patrons themselves of H Hour have chosen. And each guest, this one included, gets asked those questions before the main podcast starts getting recorded. It's like a pre-podcast interview, lasts about 10 minutes. And those interviews are really insightful, really enjoyable, nice and short, and they're only released to patrons. They never get released to the public. I don't know why I had a little stutter there. You also get access to a Discord community, exclusive Discord community only for patrons. You also get invited to a monthly Zoom call with myself and all the other patrons, and very often, most months, we have a previous podcast guest comes onto that Zoom call and has an exclusive Q&A with the patrons. In addition to this, there's monthly giveaways where I give away gifts to my Patreon supporters, and it's always, predominantly veteran-owned stuff. I'll go on buy veteran-owned apparel, veteran-owned product, services, and I'll give them away to my Patreon supporters. And I'll also do exclusive invites for events, so you'll get freebie tickets to events. To become a patron of H Hour, go to patreon.com/HK podcasts. I'm spelling Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/HK podcasts. Hit become a patron, and I'll see you on the next Zoom Q&A if you do. Oh, you also get your name in the credits. Thanks for watching. I will catch you next time.